In the next 25 minutes, I will be talking about AI agents and coding agents in particular, and how they are like drunk interns out of university, you know, full of knowledge and full of ideas, but complete lack of contacts. And I will touch a little bit on the security of the whole large language model things. So a little bit about myself, not out of ego, just to give you a perspective why I feel that I have an authority to talk a little bit about where this whole AI coding craze fits into the evolution of software development. I've been around since the 80s, and I have been coding since the 90s, and a lot of that time went into professional projects. Also, I'm pursuing my PhD in cybersecurity, and my field of research is large language models inside critical infrastructure. So a little bit of history. So let's place the whole AI agentic coding into the timeline of software development. I don't know how many of you know from the top of their heads what this is, what's in that particular memory location. This is basically how we started the whole software development with punch cards and stuff like that, really close to the hardware. Then we get to this. I bet many of you recognize the language, but I doubt that you know from the top of your heads what this particular set of code is doing. Anyone? Oh, one person. Good. That's nice. Then we got to a little bit higher language, which is more understandable for everyone, even non-coders. Like you see that there is some print function, you know what that means. So we are getting closer and closer to the human language. And then we got to highly specific higher languages like PHP and like Python, C#, Java, and so on and so forth. And while with C and C++, we had to know exactly, or we had to be aware of what we are doing with pointers and stuff. With PHP and higher languages, we don't care anymore. We should, but we don't, right? Developers, like every other people, we are lazy. That's what gets us further. And now we got to a stage where we are using frameworks to achieve certain things, and we don't even care about the underlying language anymore that much. So we know that we need a JSON to get back a JSON, like a result in the browser. We use one line, and we don't care what's happening in PHP or under it in the machine code. So where does coding agent fit into this whole logic? So we use human language, right? It's neat. We don't care about anything anymore. We just write what we want, and then there is something called like neural network, and transformers are doing their stuff. And then we get the framework, or we don't care. We get something, and something is happening. We got what we wanted. The problem is, what's different? If you take a look at the framework, you can easily go down each layer, and if you have enough time, you can understand what's happening. But we cannot understand what's happening here. We know that our drunk intern is partying there, but we have no idea what's happening and how. Like, it's too complex for us to comprehend. That brings me to vibe coding, which is like, I put in my prompt, I get what I want. What's the problem, right? So, yeah, we got some really good, funny memes out of that period, and some, like, depending on how you look, funny or terrifying headlines, right? So, that's vibe coding for you, basically. When you go into that and you give control to your drunk intern to do whatever they want. Vibe coding, I'm not talking about or against vibe coding, basically. Vibe coding is fine for some things. I use it for prototyping all the time. Vibe coding, I define vibe coding as like when I don't care about what's happening underneath, I just want the results. So I'm using it for prototyping. You can get something that you can try how to feel pretty easily. And it's good for one-time solutions when you just need to get to solve a problem, a war or script or something. And it's really good for learning. When you just want to understand the concept, it can write it for you and it can explain it for you really easily and good. But to understand the current situation, we again have to reach back to the past. Pre-AI, so before, writing code was the craft. It is these days as well, so I'm not talking about coding. My whole life was coding, basically. I just see that it's shifting. It was the whole craft. Basically, we wrote really good quality code, and then we used code reviews to ensure that they are good and working. So the quality assurance was the code review. And the developers turned tickets and coffee into new features. But now AI is spitting out code so fast that it's humanly impossible to review, basically. And no time for coffee, which is a big problem. And we end up with broken code. And we make AI write tests. And we end up with broken tests, which will pass, of course, but it will not ensure that our code works correctly. And we also end up with miserable engineers who are trying to keep up with the amount of code produced by juniors and by the CEO of the company and by everybody who thinks they are developers now. And we will end up with the wrong people doing the wrong things. So senior engineers will act like junior spell checkers at the end. And that's not, in my opinion, what we want. So that's the problem. And the solution, in my opinion, and what I'm talking about today, is true at this moment. But I don't know if it will be true in 1 month. So I have to, just a disclaimer, because everything is advancing so fast. So how do we make our drunk intern behave? They basically need a designated driver, who must be us or your engineers. Engineers must shift the focus from coders to architects. And senior engineers can do that fairly easily. We need to write really detailed specs, and this is nothing new. We need to write really detailed product requirement documentations, which will give a framework for the coding agent, and it will give it a perspective of the whole scope of the project. And also, we have to use skills, and we have to use them heavily, and specific skills. I will talk about that a little bit later. And also, we have to reach back to test-driven development. And I'm talking about proper tests, like not using AI to just, please, like cover this piece of code with tests, and then we are done for today. At least we need to review it and make sure that it's properly written, because that's a key element for the future. So in my opinion, the good question to ask from an engineer is not, can you write clean code? It's more like, can you write specification that's precise enough that the drunk intern cannot misinterpret it? So if you think about it like that, then you will get how precisely you have to lay down the foundations. So what else? Large language models are not too good with large amounts of context, like huge projects. But we can, again, reach back to the past and use a well-known technique like microservices. That's how you eat an elephant. And make smaller projects which work together, so you lay down the protocol between them. And that way, an agent can work with proper specifications with small piece of code really efficiently. There is something, I'm not using it, I'm just mentioning it, spec to code. when you are only touching the specification and nothing else, and you let the agent do the rest. So senior engineers need to shift, in my opinion, to be architects. What about juniors? That's a concern I heard many times, like how will we get senior developers? And I think that we will get senior developers the same way we became senior developers, like through the love of the craft. Like I didn't code when I was a kid just because I wanted to make a lot of money. I code that because I loved the craft. So that's how we will get them. And when they come to the company, they will work alongside with the AI to understand the project and to become, with time, seniors. Just to recap, so the old new scheme, I didn't talk about anything new here. So we are applying the old principles to this new level of development. So system architecture, software design, domain-driven development, also really important here and relevant, because you can place a context MD file into the project directory and put all the domain language there, and then you can communicate with your agent more efficiently. Writing unambiguous specs, testing and supervising agent. This is the new skill set. And I heard several times that the code is cheap these days, like you get a lot of code, but the truth is that bad code is the most expensive thing that you can build into your whole infrastructure. Like the late Hofi Géza, Hungarian comedian, said, you will be glad you took it slow when you realized you were heading the wrong way. So you have to put time into laying down the foundation, specification, documentation, test-driven development, and only then let your agent touch anything. There is plan mode in many agents, but I will talk about that as well. So practical, how do you do that? There is skills.sh. I don't know, you are familiar with it probably, the skills for coding agents. These are like recipes or concrete workflows for different things that the AI agent will follow if you put it into a certain directory. Skills.sh has a good command line tool which allows you to install it globally or just for certain agents. And a few skills that I would like to mention is one of these Andrej Karpathy skills, which will make your agent assume less and ask more. So it will not be that eager to produce code. It will ask if something is ambiguous. And the other two is grill me and specifically grill with codes. Also a really good skill, which will not only grill you about the things that you want to do, but write really good documentation in the background. And it will even document architectural changes throughout the project. I had really great success with it. And of course, agents.md, which came out like 6 months ago, but it's already like old news. That's something where you can like put the basics of how your agent wants to work. A little bit about security, just for my own soul, because that's my research topic. So when large language models came out, everybody was really cautious, at least the people I know, like developers. They were like, what we were doing, we were like not giving out like API keys, and we sandbox everything, and we didn't even dare to dream about like giving access to a client's code base and everything. Few months passed. What are we doing? Like first thing, cloud scan. What is this project about? And this is really scary for me, because big companies are not our friends. So a few tips or a few things that I like to do when I'm working with anything basically that's touched by large language model. First, please, if you can, if you have hardware, and you don't need to have a really strong hardware these days, like a 4090 or a older MacBook with, I know it's like shortage now, but if you have hardware to run large language models locally, they are good enough for most things. I know they weren't a few months before, but especially the Chinese models like Qwen 5.6 and Gemma 4 from Google, which is open weight model. You can run it locally, so you don't have to give out your data to any big companies. The other one that I mentioned about the security keys, you have different solutions for that, like to inject security keys into your API calls and everything on the fly, so your agent cannot go near it, which is, in my opinion, really important, because the guy is drunk. I mean, it would spit out your credit card number on a good party, so don't do that if you can. Secret managers worth taking a look at, and if you can, sandbox everything. I might be paranoid, but big companies are not your friends. I mean, I know what they say, but I don't know what they do with my data. And I mentioned language models, local language models. Another concern of mine is price, because it started like for $20, you could just let it loose and it coded for days and there's no limits. But even nowadays, I hope everybody is like, everybody knows that this is unsustainable. The amount of money they put into the infrastructure, the amount of money it takes to maintain that, and I mean, $20 for a month for cloud. And also, we already experiencing shrinkflation. I don't know who have noticed it. Like, you get less and less token for your buck, and that it will get even worse with time. But the solution is here already. Local language models are good enough, so you can run them on your own device. Especially, I mean, on their own, they are not that good. But if you apply these principles with specifications and skills, it can do most of the things locally. But of course, you can use the big guys. I put up a price table, just DeepSeek, which is on par with Cloud Sonnet. Just take a look at the price difference there. That's not something that you can host, but even if you don't host it, through OpenRouter, you can use that, if you don't care about where your data ends up. So that's some, Qwen 3.6.7 is coming out soon, so that I'm excited about that. It was on par with Sonnet and sometimes with Opus for me. So security, some other things that I have to mention regarding large language. I'm sure there was talks. I wasn't here yesterday, unfortunately, but I'm sure people have talked about these topics. So there are things with skills. You have to be careful which skills you install, because there is a malicious attack called skill poisoning, where the malicious actor puts so the skill looks like a normal skill, but it makes your data to be sent to a different server. There is slope squatting, which is, they are just making up package names which are likely to be hallucinated by a large language model, and it injects directly into your projects and does God knows what on your production server. And there are other attacks types that I'm not touching here, but if you want, look them up. It's worth knowing about it, because it is full of holes. So because of this, I made a little game. Just take a photo if you want to try, just to bring awareness to how easily the large language models can be tricked. And I hope it's up. I checked it last night. This is a fictional terminal for Soviet nuclear silo, and I put a large language model in charge of it. You can talk to it, and you can try to extract the nuclear launch codes from it. Don't worry, it's not an actual launch code. It's like it's a $10 Steam gift card. So whoever gets it first, congratulations. After that, I put only one gift card in it, but after that you can play around with it, just to see how easy it is to trick this. So they are so eager to do what we want that you cannot trust them, basically. And here are a few books. The Old New Skill Set, if you are interested, highly recommend them. Also, this is a good article. about the topic I just talked about. It was inspired by this mainly. Worth reading and worth implementing these things. So that was pretty much it from me. The key takeaway here is don't let your drunk intern have the party and you have the hangover, I guess. So thank you very much.